Looks good, looks good. Yo, what up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. Today, I got a really special guest, Johnathon Zamora. I'm gonna let you introduce yourself here, so.
How's it going, guys? My name is Johnathon Zamora. I'm the owner of Settler Systems and email marketing agency.
Yeah, well, we actually have like a pretty long history. We met basically when I first started my YouTube channel, so this is more special than I mentioned even.
I literally started following you on YouTube when you had like 200 subs.
That's so crazy, bro.
I saw the full climb up. It was nuts.
Yeah, you literally saw the whole journey, and I saw the whole journey for you too, so that's really, really crazy.
Yeah.
So honestly, the first thing we're going to get started with is just your journey. Like, how'd you get started? Like, you know, first jobs up until this point, all that shit. Because people really, they want to see that. And I know you guys are probably like either students or like maybe working a job and you're figuring out like what you want to do. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so it's been a grind, man. We've been at it for about 2.5 years. It's been really, really cool. So basically, how it started is I was in powerlifting. You know what that is? Where you do bench, deadlift, stuff like that. And that was kind of my first like real competition that I had really done really well in.
I remember that.
And so finishing that up, I kind of realized that I didn't have any sort of like competitive thing to channel all my energy into.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to start with entrepreneurship, and I didn't really know what to start with. Yeah. And so I was kind of looking around for a little bit. I was getting ready to turn 20, and that kind of freaked me out. It was like a early life crisis. I was just like, what am I doing with my life?
At 20 years old.
Yeah, like I was freaking out, you know? And so I saw a YouTube video or YouTube ad of somebody being like, hey, you know what? I'm making like $80,000 a month. I'm funny. 18. And I was like, man, this is crazy. So I decided, you know what? If people are making money with dropshipping, I'm going to dive into it.
Yeah.
And so I dove into it, and I started my first store, which was Shop Panthera. I don't know if you remember that.
Bro, I still literally have like the spreadsheets of your influencers that you shared with me. Like, I look back at that, I was like, what? That's so crazy.
I have our first coaching call recorded together. Yeah. So yeah, about a month after starting, Arie ended up following me on Instagram, my business page. And I like saw him and I was like, what the heck? This guy's doing the same exact thing as me. So then I DM'd him and I was like, hey, like, would love to talk, kind of pick your brain a little bit. So I ended up talking with you, and you were super cool. And so I ended up paying for coaching with you. Started paying for coaching with you. And I remember you were like super honest. You're like, hey, dude, this is like my second coaching call ever. But it was super helpful. And you honestly really laid the foundations for us for early Facebook ad creation, and then also like the branding and the design.
Thanks, bro.
You've definitely been talented with that since the beginning. And
thanks, man. Honestly, it's interesting that you mentioned that you got started with, you know, like you saw an ad and I feel like so many people have started that way, like through seeing a Tai Lopez ad type shit. And honestly, it was the same for me. Literally, like Tai Lopez was when I first was like, oh, you know, there's people making money online. Like maybe I don't have to, you know, go this traditional route. And then like you get into the rabbit hole of finding all this information, and then here we are, you know, like it's literally like
it's so crazy how it works.
So what sort of like jobs did you have before, or were you working a job while you started your dropshipping store?
Yeah. So I was in college full time. I had a full ride scholarship.
You did?
Yeah, I did for just for academics.
Okay, so you were like already like a hard worker, like you know, you had your work ethic like dialed in. So
I like to think that, you know, I at least give it my best. You know, it's not always perfect, but I try to give my best. So yeah, I was already doing okay in college, kind of working through that, and I was working at a call center. And so I started kind of picking up with drop shipping, and that started to make me a little bit of money, but I didn't want to quit immediately. I started to see some of my friends that were getting into entrepreneurship just quit immediately and then go back immediately. And I'm like, I'm not going to do that. When I quit, that's my full-time thing. And so I waited until I was making 4 times as much from drop shipping as I was with my regular job. That was about 8 months later, so it was kind of like a longer process.
I have a relatively video. Some people would say that's short, but
right. I mean, I had a ton of really awesome people around me from the beginning. You know, like I had people like you. I had Noah, who you also had on your channel. You know, I had good people surrounded around me from day one, and so that really helped.
Yeah, that must have made a big difference. I mean, most people say that it takes them, you know, years to find any sort of success, and you know, for you it happened quickly. But I do think like
kind of got lucky, to be honest.
Maybe it was a little bit of luck, but I think also you were just like exceptional at a lot of things. Like even just down to like the first coaching calls we had, like you had all your stuff organized, like all your influencers, like you know,
I think effort matters.
Effort matters, and you really like went above and beyond to make it work, and like you treated it like a business from the beginning, which I think is like the biggest reason why a lot of people just kind of take really long, because they don't treat it like a business. They treat it as like, you know, day trading or something. Like it's just something to get make money fast, but
yeah, 100%.
that's not the case. Like you're building a business at the end of the day, and more so
right.
now than ever before with e-commerce blowing up. So that's super cool. I also really like how you mentioned that you waited until you had 4 times the income from your store in order to quit your job. I think that's a really good point and like a really good baseline for knowing when to like go all in.
I remember we had coaching calls talking about that, saying like, do I do this? Is this a good idea? I also had coaching calls with you being like, do I drop out of college? Like, when does that make sense? You know? And I remember Arie was telling me, funny enough, that you were never going to drop out.
Yeah.
And then you ended up doing that. So, you know, it's kind of like you evolve and you change, and as you grow, you kind of, your goals change and what you're going to do. But yeah, I dropped out and quit my job in the same week.
That's so crazy, bro.
Yeah.
What a week. That must have been like really, really memorable.
It's funny because I remember the day exactly. It was July 18th, 2018. And I still celebrate that like it's my birthday. Wow. So my birthday is January 28th, coming up here pretty soon. I don't really celebrate my birthday nearly as much as I celebrate that day. Because that was amazing, kind of like a big transformation for me.
Yeah, I mean, that literally must have changed your life for the better, of course.
Not immediately, but it was definitely a pivotal point where it's like, okay, this is the new chapter.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing worth noting too is like, even for you and for most people, like what people don't understand is that it's like success and whatever, it's like a compound effect. Like it's something that happens like over time. Like it wasn't that, like you said, it wasn't quitting that job necessarily that like changed everything. It was just like a pivotal point and like one step forward into like achieving what you wanted to achieve.
Right.
So that's amazing, man. I want to ask you, so what are you, because I know now you're running an agency, you're running a successful agency, and I want to ask you like, what was the transition like from running your own stores to now, you know, handling multiple clients and, you know, what is that like?
Yeah, so agency life is quite a bit different.
Yeah.
It's quite a bit different.
And Noah touched on that too, because he has an agency as well, and people were really interested to hear more about that. So
yeah, so I ran multiple successful stores from 2018 all the way up until about late 2019. You know, we generated a decent amount of revenue and, you know, built up a couple of like very micro brands, you know, kind of started to enter the private label space, but nothing too crazy. And so for me, I decided to kind of make the transition when I kind of just kept seeing my brands just flop like over and over again. And I don't necessarily feel like it's the model or it was the products. I felt like for me, it just didn't come as natural. Yeah. And I was having a hard time making that transition of saying, okay, I'm going to take this product and actually turn it into a culture and a community and things like that. So for me, that I just felt like I was just trying to become more self-aware, and realizing that was one of my downfalls and not a strong suit kind of made me realize that I needed to shift. And for me, I love people. Right. I love interacting, building relationships, connecting with one another. And with the agency world, you do that all the time.
Yeah,
your clients you connect with, you know, and then friends and, you know, people just all over the place. It's constant communication. And so for me, the agency model just fit a little bit better. Yeah. But I already had a background in e-commerce.
Right.
So that's kind of how I decided what services I was going to offer for the agency. It just made sense.
Yeah, definitely.
And I already had a few friends that were kind of asking me like, hey, can you do the email for me? Can you do the email? And it kind of just slowly evolved to that.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. And I think you mentioned something really important, that is, you know, you're playing to your strong suits.
Right.
And, you know, that's something that a lot of people undervalue, and they try to, you know, do everything and end up falling short in a lot of things.
Right.
And that's where, you know, one of the biggest learning lessons I've had in the past couple of years too, personally, is like really, you know, kind of looking at myself and thinking, okay, what are actually my strong suits and weaknesses?
Right.
And that's helped me so much in like knowing exactly what goals I should have and like where the direction that I'm setting, which is so important.
So for you, what's that process of starting to be like, oh, like maybe I'm not good at that? Is it like immediate where you could pick it up, or is it kind of like you repeat it over and over again and then it's a moment of self-reflection?
Yeah, honestly, for me, it was just like a moment of self-reflection that happened over time. It wasn't like an immediate thing, and I still, even till this day, will get sucked back into doing other things that I know like I should probably get someone else to do, or just like I really should focus on my strong suits. But it's inevitable. I mean, it happens. Nobody's perfect. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you're still
it's hard. Doing things you definitely have to keep yourself like on the same path and be like, no, go here.
Yeah.
With you, what do you feel like your strong suits are? I know I'm starting to like interview Arie.
No, but I totally vibe with what you said. And to me, my strong suits, and you probably know this as well, is just like the design process, like the creative aspect of building an e-commerce brand and the community. Like what I enjoy the most from my brand, which I've shown you as well, is building the community.
You haven't revealed it yet.
Not yet, but it's coming. I want to. I'm just trying to be really careful about it, obviously. And I have partners, and they're like also hesitant about it.
Yeah, so you have to be mindful of how they feel.
Yeah, I have to be mindful because I know a lot of you guys start e-commerce stores, and I don't think you copying me would, influence the brand negatively, but I don't know. I'm trying to be careful about it.
And the big thing that I think you also have to kind of think about is the traffic, the data.
The data, yeah, exactly. But this year, since I've realized that my strong suit is building communities and just like really engaging with communities, that's what I've placed my main focus on, is like the creatives, like making content, and then also just nurturing the community through whatever mediums we use, which is mostly Instagram. And that's what I've decided to focus like all my time into. Whereas like my partner Ty, for example, he's more so like a quality, like he's kind of a person that has instilled in me the value of quality over quantity, like in life in general. But more so, in fashion specifically, a lot of people will go to like, fast fashion brands and buy things that are not very quality, and, they'll have to replenish them consistently, which is fine. I understand that. But it is better for yourself and the environment as well to buy something that's going to last you, years and years, as opposed to the other way around. So that's what he focuses on, is like finding the highest quality suppliers, making sure that everything, like all of our, packaging and everything is like the highest quality it can be and sustainable and fits with the brand. So it's just really a matter of, I've found my strong suit and he's found his strong suit. So now we're able to like combine forces, collaborate to really that and like take it to the next level. And I think, like you said, it's been hugely important to determine like what's my strong suit and what I'm not good at. And that was one thing, like I don't necessarily pay the most attention to detail all the time because I'm always like going, whereas Ty is like more slow and like meticulous. Very detail oriented. So it's a good combination.
Yeah, you definitely have to have that like, that different dynamic in order to have like a partnership like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I feel like I also have like a very similar sort of follow-up where whenever I'm doing something and I realize I'm not good at it, I continue to do it over and over again, and then I have a moment of self-reflection, a month, 2 months, 3 months later, and kind of realize like, maybe I'm not the best at this.
Exactly.
And so I think the important thing is just kind of getting that data and then kind of having that feedback loop where it's like, now I have to kind of move in a little bit different of a direction.
Okay, and that actually kind of leads me to the next question I wanted to ask you, is like, for you personally, whether it be in your agency life or even back with your dropshipping stores or private label brands, like what was one thing that like really made a big difference for you? Because I know you're like all about systems, for example, and like that's one big thing that I know a lot of people neglect or are just not good at fundamentally. Like me, I'm not the best at systems always. So what was like one big thing that really helped you achieve success, I guess?
Well, I wouldn't say I have any success, right?
Well, I mean,
you kind of like hit something new and you're like, oh, now I made it. And then you kind of get to that point and you realize like you still have so much to go. And I feel like me and you are still on the slide edge up.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
We're really early on. But I would say some of the big things that I feel like helped me is, number one, just running my own race. Early on, I remember thinking and seeing other people on YouTube or seeing other people like you that were crushing it, and me not feeling like I was adequate or that I was catching up or that I was kind of being competitive with you guys, and just realizing that I need to run my own race. Like, you're doing your own thing, and that's why you've done so well, is because you've done your own thing. And so looking internally and saying I need to do my own thing as well was important for me. I found that out relatively early on, and I'm happy that I did.
That's awesome.
Because I feel like if you don't, you end up kind of just being in this constant sort of ego race with everybody else, and that's just not fun. The second thing I would say is systems. Systems for me is really just the foundation of a business. I think when you really look at just about anything, it's a system. Even a rocket that's blasting off into space, it's a system.
For sure.
It might be a more complex system. There might be more gears and components that have to piece together in order for it to work, but it's still a system. And so for me, I'm constantly looking at what our end goal is, and then working in reverse and saying, okay, what sort of gears do I have to piece together in order to get that entire goal to become a real thing? And then at that point, then I just start building those gears. So I spend 80 to 90% of my time building systems. Which means that once I build it, all I have to do is monitor the system. I don't actually have to do those tasks.
So it saves you time at the end of the day. I mean, like it's like kind of work up front, but then it kind of runs without you, and that's the point of a system in the first place, is to make things more efficient. And consistent.
Right. And if you're planning on running an agency, or I even had a call with one of our brand owners, one of the people that we do client work with. He has a really awesome brand. We could kind of talk about the work that we're doing for him there, but they're doing about $35,000 a day. And so they're starting to really catch momentum. This is the first brand that he's ever started to blow out of the water, which I'm super excited for him. But he's also kind of at a point where a lot of things are starting to break. And so for him, I had a call with him, even though it's not really what we're offering, but I kind of just did like free consulting just to be like, get your systems down. So we helped him build a customer service system, and then also just like an order fulfillment system to make sure that everything's in line.
Yeah.
And so having systems in place is super important just to make your life so much easier.
100%. I also like that you mentioned the fact that you are like running your own race. I think that's actually like a really, really important point.
Yeah.
Because like you said, if you don't do that, you can easily get caught up in an ego race, which you can never win is the thing. Because there will always be somebody that's just like crushing it way beyond anything you could ever do.
Right. And, then there's always going to be people underneath you too that you'll be like, I'm better than them, but that doesn't matter.
No. So that's like a game that you can never win. And that's where I think you'll find a lot of entrepreneurs that are like really unsatisfied with their work, or really unhappy with life in general, even though they're making millions and millions of dollars. And it's like, that's something that's really important to like catch early on. And I think, like you said, that was something that really helped you succeed. And same with me. I've tried my best to really stay in my own lane and like not really focus so much on what other people are doing.
And that's literally NetSphere. NetSphere is completely different than
it is.
Else.
Like I try to make something different that would kind of be more accessible for people and still have this like exclusive community where people could sort of like a university style, like a forum style, like community, and it's worked out really well. So that's been nice.
It's super crazy, honestly, to see the community that you've built. It's honestly inspiring for me to kind of just see, because I'm inside the group as well. Yeah. And I see these like absolute killers coming out.
Yeah, and it's just so cool.
It's crazy how many people are doing well in this space. Yeah. Like there's the YouTubers that you hear of that they're making videos like you where they're showing their journey, but there's so many people that aren't sharing their journey that are really doing well, that it's like those are the people you have to surround yourself by.
Right, and those people
cool
are even
that you've
harder
congregated
to find.
all of them.
Yeah, man. I mean, that was kind of the point of it, is like you don't see all these people that are completely crushing it and are all 100% focused on their business, so they've been able to learn so many things that I don't even know, or that you don't even know. So that's been nice to be able to put those people in the same place, and I'm looking forward to continuing to do that. With you in the group and more people in the group, like it's just gonna get exponentially better. So
is it okay if I announce the little email tidbit?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Bro. Yeah.
So me and Arie are actually I'm gonna make a couple of videos in Arie's NetSphere and kind of just outline some of the things that we're doing inside of our agency. Yeah. Maybe produce a couple of case studies just showing how we're producing our automations, our campaigns, amazing, bro. And, just to kind of spruce up the email marketing, so you can find that inside of NetSphere.
Yeah, that's gonna be really dope. And that was kind of the point of NetSphere in the first place, was like I recognize that I don't know everything. I mean, I'm just focused on my brand. It's not like, that's the thing about
running
an
agency.
Your own race. Yeah, and that's the thing about an agency that I touched with Noah on, that I think is really beneficial to take advice from an agency owner, because they have this huge sample size of people or of brands that they're running things for. So you have so much expertise in certain areas. So that's going to be really amazing, and I can't wait for that. That's going to be really awesome. So my next question is something kind of along the lines of the ego thing, sort of. I want to ask you, how do you balance your work life? So like, how much do you work? Like, would you say, and like, how important is it for you to balance things out?
Wow. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think the part of the issue here is I think you have to find something that you genuinely enjoy. Yeah. Right? Because I don't ever feel like I'm working. Like technically right now I'm working. Yeah. But like I love this kind of stuff. Right. I was about to cuss, but I won't cuss on your channel.
No, you're good. You're good. It's not a big deal.
Oh,
People
they're cool here?
Yeah.
Cool.
They're chilling.
Yeah, but I genuinely enjoy what I'm doing, so I don't really feel like I'm ever working. Now, there was a time where I was working 12-hour days, and I thought it was super cool to work 80 hours a week and kind of do that entire thing. And I kind of reached a breaking point where I was unhappy, I was unhealthy, I was starting to gain like a lot of weight. I wasn't in a great space mentally, where I wasn't like super excited and pumped like I usually am. And I kind of had to take a step back and have a moment of self-reflection and say, is this what I want? Is this what I want from my life? Is this the the experience that I'm wanting to have here. Because I think what I didn't realize is every single day is just a little chapter inside your book.
Yeah.
And so it's like if you stack up enough of those days, that becomes your life.
Yeah.
And so if I'm not happy with my days today, something has to change.
Yeah.
And so, for me in that moment, I was like, okay, something has to change. And that's kind of when I started learning more about systems and trying to get my time back.
Yeah.
Because I was doing all these things that I could pay a VA $4 an hour for.
Yeah.
I'm like, why am I stressing about this? That's not worth my time.
Right.
And so I started to build systems. Right now, I would say I probably work about 7-8 hours a day pretty consistently.
Okay. So just a normal work day.
Normal work day. Yeah, I wake up in the morning. I do a morning meeting with my team every single day. We talk about the main issues that we have. Then I have a 4-hour block every single morning where I just do one thing.
Nice.
I'm not trying to accomplish a million things every single day. I'm not trying to just get a ton of progress. I heard a really good quote the other day that said, "We tried to make a lot of progress and end up making none." And I feel like that's just the truth,
yeah.
right? Somebody that's watching right now might want to start an e-commerce store and, start doing $10,000 a day in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And so it's like you try to make all this progress and that mountain is so big, that obstacle is so big that you end up making no progress.
Right.
So it's like, for me, it's just putting one foot in front of the other. So I have that 4-hour block. And then after that, it's another 2 hours or so, 2-3 hours of kind of just working through the day-to-day. Any questions that are coming in, calls that I have to take, things like that. Nice. So that's kind of my work-life balance. After that, I'm recovering. Yeah. I for the first year and a half, I didn't take recovery seriously at all.
Right.
I'd be laying in bed still on my computer trying to type out emails, still trying to think about it. And the recovery is so important for you so that whenever you come back, you're refreshed, you're on point, everything's firing. So for me, after I'm done, I recover hard. I'm gonna go to a restaurant with my friends, not think about work. I'm gonna hang out, stuff like that. So
I like that, and that's been something that I think I think with entrepreneurship, it's so easy to have just so much stress build up. And right. I think that's the main reason is because people don't balance their life out and they're just constantly thinking and working on their business, which is fine. I think at some points that is important and you do need to kind of go really, really hard on your business to kick it off the ground.
Right.
But at a certain point, like you said, I think it's happened to everybody that's an entrepreneur full time is they reach this sort of burnout stage where you're like, oh man, well, is this really what I wanted? Is this worth it even? Yeah. And I think that's where systems really, really come in, like you said. And for me, it's been really beneficial to have partners right. That can help me, balance out my time and do the things I love. And of course, employees and just team members as well. So I want to ask you, how many team members do you have, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, so at our biggest for the agency, we had 18.
18 people.
18.
Wow.
That's including VAs. I would say that about 4 of those were VAs. Then we had media buyers, graphic designers, copywriters, account managers. Yeah, it was a hefty team.
That's crazy.
And again, you're constantly going through these cycles where you start to say, maybe this isn't what I want. Maybe I have to make some adjustments here. Are we good on the camera?
Yeah. Okay, I just checked because last time I recorded with Noah, sometimes it just randomly stops recording. But
Yes, I have those moments too where I'm looking,
I'm making sure we're still good.
Yeah, but with our agency, that was kind of the peak.
Yeah.
Then I kind of realized that we were spreading ourselves too thin, doing too many different things, jack of all trades, master of none. And so what we decided to do was kind of take a step back, look at what we were doing really well, which was a few things. Facebook ads, email marketing were the 2 specific ones. And then I kind of reverse engineered that and said, okay, what's the most scalable? What's the ones that I can offer the most value for? Who can we get the bigger clients for? Everything like that. And so we kind of scaled it back. Now we're at about 8 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you've kind of condensed your team to just strong players.
Yeah.
And I really like that because my team, just like you, has gotten smaller over the years.
Right.
Actually,
it's kind of weird.
Which is weird. You'd expect it to be the other way around, but I think this way there's less moving pieces, which means people can focus more. And I think we achieve more this way. So that's awesome.
There's that law where it's the most simple answer is usually the right one.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of the whole team building aspect. That's what that comes down to is a simple team is usually better.
Yeah. And I would say that's a good principle for a lot of other things too. In general, the simplest you can make something, the better, especially with
100%.
Ads and branding. I think one of the biggest things I've learned is people want to be told things they're 5 years old. They don't want to have to be confused. They want to understand what things are right away, as simple as possible. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't really think about is that they think that being complex and, using all these big words is going to like impress somebody. But at the end of the day, it actually does the opposite, because people don't want to feel impressed. They want to just like understand what you're selling and stuff like that.
Right. And I think, honestly, I think the point that you just said there is really important, because what it boils down to is you're not caring about the strategy. You're caring about the fundamental.
Right.
The fundamental is that people want to see products that they like. They, want to be told what to do. They want to have a clear call to action, an enticing headline, whatever it is. That's the fundamental. And then there's all these strategies that start to come into play where it's like, add the emojis, do it like this, whatever. And it starts to kind of clutter the entire process.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's 100% true, man. Another thing I want to ask you is, let's say, this person is like, they want to start their online business. They're just, they're kind of watching YouTube videos, like they're just doing their thing. What would you say is like the biggest tip for them as far as just their journey in general?
Just start.
Just start.
Just start. Yeah. I think that it's so easy. One of the best things that I think I've done, I did in 2020, was turn off all of my notifications. I turned off my Snapchat notifications, my Instagram, my YouTube, my email, everything.
Wow.
I turned off everything. So like if you try to call me, you try to text me, you won't hear from me.
Damn.
Because during the time that I'm working, I'm working.
Yeah.
When I'm doing this interview, I'm doing this interview.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm hanging out, I'm hanging out.
So
it's
present,
like present.
fully.
Yeah, that's a better word.
Nice.
So I really am focused on being present. And so I think that if I was to go back and try to coach myself, or to, just give a piece of advice for anybody that's watching this, it would just be to be present and just start taking action.
Wow.
It's so easy to just watch a ton of YouTube videos and never do anything.
It is.
So like after this, if you got to this point in the interview, first off, appreciate you. You're awesome.
Yes, definitely.
But if you got to the point in this interview and you're still thinking, okay, what should I be doing? Look at what your end goal is, reverse engineer that, and just get started.
That's
simple
amazing,
as that.
man.
Just make one step.
See, that's some simple advice that's actually so powerful, and I agree. Like, and just like you said, you're taking, 1 foot at a time, one step forward.
Right.
And I think the biggest step is the 0 to 1. Like, just get started.
Right.
And then
now you have momentum. Now you're excited.
Yeah. Momentum is everything. Like for business and life. I mean, working out as a powerlifter, I'm sure you probably understand that more. Well, as
a little bit skinnier now.
Previous powerlifter, I'm sure you understand. Like, you have to, kind of pave the way like slowly. You don't just go from like lifting 100 pounds to 200 pounds in like a week.
Right.
You have to, go slowly, and so you don't get hurt.
You gotta put in the reps.
Exactly. You gotta put in the reps. And that's a good analogy for business too. Like if you scale too quick, you're gonna get hurt. Like things are gonna break, and you're gonna end up having a bad time.
That's such a good analogy.
Yeah,
such a good analogy.
And it's the truth, and it happens to everybody. Like literally everybody in e-com. Like I get that question every day. It's like, oh, I scaled too quick. Like now PayPal's holding my money.
Yep.
Like what do I do? It's like, I mean, it's kind of like a rite of passage at this point. It literally happens. It happened to me. I'm sure it's happened to you.
Yeah.
But the best way, just take our advice. Like avoid that as much as you can. Just like take it 1 foot at a time, one step at a time, and really just build the best business that you can. I think that's just...
You're only racing yourself. I always heard that, where it's like you're only racing yourself, and it's just like, whatever.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't apply to me,
Yeah.
But then when I like look back at it, I feel like some of the things that I've either regretted a little bit. I try not to regret too much, but there are moments.
Yeah.
Either things that I've regretted or things that I kind of wish that I'm like, I could have done that a little bit better.
For sure.
And those are the times that I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel that. Okay, camera shut off for the second time, so that was that's a good signal to probably end this right here.
Yep.
So we appreciate you guys watching. Make sure you go check out all of Jonathan's socials and all the links in the description. That would be amazing. And yeah, man, thanks for coming out, and
thank you so much for having me. Thank you guys for watching. Like Arie said, my Instagram will be in the description. So if you want any help in email marketing, just send me a message.
Dope. See you guys in the next one. Peace.
Right. Bye.